So let's see how you can deploy an automated and scalable vSphere data protection in minutes with no hardware or software within the Druva platform. So from the Druva dashboard, we're going to go into the Phoenix product. And then from the Phoenix dashboard, you're going to see summary information around the workloads that you're protecting, whether it's physical servers, databases, VMware workloads, NAS devices, as well as local cache. So here, just roughly to kind of explain our source side deduplication, the first backup set protected 1.75 terabytes of data. Now with changes and incremental changes over time, we're seeing that grow to 4.52. Now traditionally, if you were to do archives to the cloud, that data set would compound and compound, or even if you're going to offsite archive media like disk or tape. There's a lot of redundant data stored within that pool. Now with Druva, we're running our global source-based deduplication. So out of this 4.52, we've actually only ingested, we're only storing 718 gigs. Now the benefit to this is that your bandwidth consumption is going to be lower, the backup speed will be improved. This allows the remote-based backup or vCenter or VMC workloads to happen. Now you get to choose exactly where your data goes. Even though the backend storage is managed by Druva, you choose the region, and then we will triplicate that data to 3 data centers within that region. Isolate the metadata in DynamoDB, and so you can have multiple different regions for different business units or different areas to keep with local data sovereignty laws. Now to configure VMware backups, let's quickly talk through the architecture. All you have to do is deploy a proxy. This is a small Linux-based VM. This is not a repository. This is not a virtual appliance. This proxy is used to authenticate to vCenter, authenticate to your Druva Cloud instance, cross-reference what data exists in the cloud, run that deduplication, and then send the unique data directly to Druva. It's worth mentioning that with Druva, you can protect both vSphere on-premise, as well as VMware Cloud on AWS and on Dell's cloud. So we're going to choose a workload to protect, click on VMware, download this proxy deployer, copy our token, and then from there, we can get configured. Now, before we do that, I want to talk quickly about the backup proxy pool. And so if you have multiple hosts, if you have hundreds of VMs, you can scale out instead of up. So instead of beefing up a proxy, what you can do is you can have multiple proxies together in a pool. The backup jobs themselves, the deduplication will be load balanced between, and then the data will be deduped and sent directly to Druva's cloud based on the schedule in the policy. So to quickly highlight a policy, if I create a new policy, VMware, this is where we get to select the frequency of the backups, so like when the backups kick off, the max bandwidth of that job, and the frequency. So you can have backups run every day, up to every hour. Remember, it's source-based deduplication, incremental forever backups. And then on the retention, you choose how many dailies, weeklies, monthlies, and yearlies that you need. And if you do have at least one yearly, you can automatically archive older data directly to Glacier with a click of a button, saving you cost on consumption, as well as getting that archive data directly into cold storage. As I mentioned earlier, Druva can back up both vSphere on-premise and in VMware Cloud. All you have to do is check this box if you're using VMC and or put in the FQDN or IP address of the vCenter itself. Input the admin credentials and then determine the location, the data store, the network of the host that you want to deploy this proxy. When you launch this deployer, all you're going to do is set up your vCenter credentials, your data center, your data store, your time zone. Select either a static or DHCP networking. The network itself just needs internet access. You can whitelist star.druva.com for port 443. You paste in that token and you deploy that proxy. Now, once you deploy that proxy, what you'll be able to see within VMware here is that vCenter loaded, all of the VMs listed below. And so to automate deployment here on auto configuration, you can set a rule based on tag, based on folder, based on data store, based on host. VMs will automatically get added, be assigned to a specific storage region, a specific admin group for reporting, a policy for frequency and retention, a proxy pool, and then OS credentials if you're looking to do app-aware backups to isolate SQL data. And so once you set that up, the backups will go automatically. Now, if I go to the Jobs tab here, you can see from VMware all of the backups that have occurred. Now, because we're doing source-based deduplication, because this is just the unique data that's transferred globally, the backups themselves are going to be very fast. The overall amount of data transferred, very little. This efficiency drives both cost benefit from Druva as well as performance. And if I go to that specific VM, say a SQL VM, and I want to restore it back, there's a couple options here. You can do a full VM restore. You can do just a database restore. If I click on VM restore, you have the option of course, individual VMDK files. You can dive into that VM by mounting that VMDK, browse through the folder directory, isolate folders or files that you need to restore them back to the original or to an alternate VM to a CIF share as well. And so you can dive right into the volume, choose what files you need, and then restore that back. Now from the VM level, of course, you can choose any point in time historically. Hot would designate local cache, warm would be S3, cold is Glacier storage. And then if I restore that VM back to the original or to an alternate location and choose the VMware configuration, whether it's the hypervisor, the data store, the network, and rename the VM. Now, being able to restore back to premise or an alternative site is of course valuable, but if you want to do an orchestrated DR failover, you can do a DR plan, and the DR plan would highlight the VM boot order, the instance type, automatically copying the latest VM backups into EBS snapshots within your VPC, making your latest backups available for orchestrated failover in the cloud. Now, the beauty of this is all elastic, it's scalable. You only have to pay for the compute out of AWS if and when you need it, instead of pre-provisioning, pre-purchasing all of the hardware and capacity just to prepare for that worst case scenario. So hopefully this was a good overview of configuring your VMware workloads and how you can automate both the scale and the deployment through our SaaS-based platform. Thank you so much.